Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we're gonna be looking at how to connect C# to SQL Server. This is a pretty common task. Many of us developers will be in a situation where we want to create an application that actually stores and persists data to somewhere, and this somewhere is SQL Server, one of the many databases that exist. But there's a pretty good connection between, or let's say integration between C# and SQL Server, because both are Microsoft services or products. So today I'm gonna be using my blog post on how to connect to C# to SQL Server with C# as a guide. You can go to this address to Unit Coding. This is my blog on this topic. I'm gonna be using it to guide you through the through this tutorial, and also to don't lose myself into everything that I must be doing. Okay, so let's start by looking at the prerequisites. If you want to follow along, you need to have SQL Server installed. You can have any version, 2016, 19, or any other version. You need to have the SQL Server Management Studio, and you must have a version that is compatible with that SQL Server instance that you install. And also we need to have the entity framework tools installed into our system. For that, we can run this a simple command. You can copy this. I'm gonna leave the link to this blog post down in the description, so you can go and also grab everything from here. Let's go and let's say .NET tool install globally to install it everywhere. .NET EF, okay? Well, in my case, I already have this installed, so it will say .NET EF. It's already installed. .NET EF -- I think that we can do this. Yes, I have the 7.02 7.0.2 version. You can do this if you already have .NET EF installed. Okay, so let's move on. Yes, now let's actually create our project. Let's say .NET new web API. We will use a web API to connect to SQL Server. So let's say connect to SQL Server. This will be the name. You can name your application whatever you want. Let's get into it, and let's go into our connect blah blah blah, and let's open Visual Studio with this command code and dot. Now we can close the terminal, and we will have our API. We can see the weather forecast controller. This is some template code that we always have, so it's okay. We're not going to be using that. So moving on with the guide, we're going to be using the code first approach. So let me give you a brief introduction to what code first is. The code first approach is one of the three approaches that any framework provides to work with data. What this approach allows us is to work with C# objects instead of working directly with the database or any other library like ADO.NET. This is pretty useful for us developers because we can keep working with code when trying to communicate to SQL Server. What does this mean? Instead of us having to go to SQL Server and create the database, create the tables and everything, we can actually create model classes on C#. We can create relationships inside C#, and then Entity Framework will manage and convert these to actual C# SQL Server databases, SQL Server tables, relationships, and more. So that's pretty cool, because this way we can focus only on the code side. You must always have some knowledge on SQL Server, because that's better for you. But if you don't have, don't worry. You can do everything with code with this code first approach. So that was the code first approach. Let's create a person model. Nope. Let's go and create a new folder called models. And inside this, let's create a person class. .cs. Let's say namespace field, public class person. Whoops, no, no, no. And let's use these two. Yeah, int ID, string, I guess it will be named, right? Yes, last name and age. String, last name, and whoops, int age. Okay, let's give this a default value of string.empty, so we get rid of this warning. String.empty, the same for this last name property. Whoops, what happened? Blah, 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 blah. Yes, I'm missing the equal sign. Okay, now we have this person model. We are actually going to create this and move it to SQL Server to create a table called person that will store all these properties inside a new table in SQL Server. Okay, so now we need to install any framework. So let's begin with the first one. Open the console. You can go on to terminal and say new terminal, or you can use the command Control Shift and backtick. Okay, so use this .NET add package Microsoft Entity Framework Core. That's the first package you need to install. Then you need to install this one, Entity Framework Core.SQL Server, because we're gonna be using SQL Server. There we go. And lastly, let's add this package Entity Framework Core.Tools, so we can call the command from the Entity Framework that we installed previously. Okay, let's clear our terminal. And now let's create a new class called AppDbContextClass. Okay, for that we can just create it outside AppDbContext.cs, namespace field, blah blah blah, public class application db context, and I think that must be no, from db context, from app. Let me check that. No, that's it, db context. Okay, now let's import this namespace Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. Let's create our class. Now we need to say yes. Always no, that's in the constructor. Let's create a constructor and say DbContext options. AppDbContext and say options. Okay, and we will say base options. Now we must create, let me get rid of this, I hate this, but okay, let's create a db set. Okay, db set of type person, and let's call it people, because it's a good practice to call it the plural of our entity. Okay, this way we tell Entity Framework that we want to create a db set or a table from the based on the person model. Okay, now we can do this. This is how is it called? I'm sorry, I'm missing the name. This is data seeding. Okay, we are seeding the database. What data seeding actually means? Okay, no, this must not be here. This is actually on protected override void on model creating. Yep. Well, let's actually get rid of this. Let's select this and say, yep, copy, and let's paste this here. What we are actually doing here is saying the to entity framework, say from the entity person, it will have this data. create me a new person with these properties and another new person with these entities. This way, whenever we create the table and databases, those will not be empty. They actually will hold some values, and these two person models will be those values, okay? So now on, I think, yes, we need to add the connection string. For that, you should go to app-settings.json. Let's put a comma here and say connection strings, okay? Get inside these brackets, and you can call it whatever you like. I call it here DbConnection. And inside here, you will paste your connection string, okay? Okay, server name, you must put the server name from your machine. Go to your SQL Server Management Studio, go to the connect, and get this server name. I'm gonna replace it with this. Database name, you can call this, I don't know, person DB, for example. This name doesn't matter, you can give the name you want. Now we must say trusted connection equals true, integrated security true, and trust service certificate true. You can read more about these, let's say, settings here, server, database, and all that. Now we can go and execute the entity framework core commands to actually build and create our database. Now here comes the fun part. Let's go and say .NET EF migrations add initial migration. Again, this is just a name. You can say first migration, my migration, whatever you want, okay? So the migration will start. Okay, for the same time, go Microsoft, Okay, it seems like we have some errors. Let me check if everything is okay. Okay, guys, I'm sorry, my bad. I was missing the most important part. Let's go and head to program.cs, and we must register the database connection as a service, okay? So, well, actually, we need to register the application DbContext. So let's say builder.services.add DbContext of type AppDbContext context, and let's import the that thing, the namespace. Let's say options, and then options.use SQL Server. Let's import the Microsoft.Entity Framework Core namespace, and let's say builder.ser, no, it's configuration.get connection string, and we must pass this name, DbConnection. Let's copy this and put it inside. We are actually saying use SQL Server and passing the this connection string, but to be able to get this, we must say builder configuration get the connection string name get the DbConnection. Okay, so that's it. That must be all. Now we should be able to run our migration and be able to see it. .NET EF migrations. Let's select this initial migration. The migration is going to be starting, and okay, now you can go and see that we have a new folder called migrations. Let's get rid of the terminal, and here there are a lot of instructions that any entity framework builds that say create a table called people. The columns will be ID, name, last name, and age, and these are the type for every single column for the database. The constraints, the primary table will be the PK people, which is our ID. By convention, entity framework always chooses the let me go to model. always chooses the ID as the primary key for any table. Okay, and then it says insert data into the table people. The columns, I'm sorry, ID, age, last name, and name. And the values will be these. So whenever we need the table to go down, it's just dropping the table people, okay? So these are the instructions that actually Entity Framework uses to build the database. Let's go back to the terminal and say .NET EF database and update. If you see here, we don't have any other database besides this BlockDB database, but we are creating a new database called people, okay? So we can see all the SQL commands that are being executed here. You can see the create table, people, ID, int, not null identity. If you know some SQL, this is actually SQL query instructions to create a table. So this is everything. Now you can go and actually refresh this. Refresh. And now we have the person database. Let's go to our tables. People. Select 1000 rows. And voila, we can see Oscar Montenegro, age 28. Yolanda Montenegro, age 27, okay? This is the query to get the first 1000 rows. We only have 2 because in our AppDbContext, we just inserted or used this data seeding for these 2. If you change this and actually put many rows, you will get that much rows. But for this example, we only wanted to use these rows. And that's it, guys. This is how easy it is to communicate C# to SQL Server. We use a web API project, but you can, without a doubt, use ASP.NET MVC, Blazor, or any other kind of project using the application DbContext, the app settings, registering your DbContext as a service, and then using the commands to create a migration and create the database. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, please go to the comment section. If I was going too fast, if I was not clear enough, please let me know and give me some feedback so I can make these videos better for you. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and also share this video with people that are beginners and that are starting. If you are part of a developers group that are starting, please share this video with them so it can be helpful for them. And also please support me on Ko-Fi, on Buy Me a Coffee. And as you saw, you can follow along with this blog version of this video. You can go and you can follow along pretty easy. Also, you can check that I have plenty of other topics on C#, my Blazor Pokédex application, random name generator. Also, I have a Google Translate clone. All these blogs, I will be making them or passing them to YouTube to make some videos. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Keep posted and I see you soon.